Yes, I did see it. Because I'm over here. I'm just camping out on the page, waiting for you to like. Yay! There you are. I see you. But yes, I
Yay!
did see your brand. I like it. Yay. Okay, so I have you there. I have you in Facebook. Are you live in Facebook yet?
I should be live on Facebook. Am I not showing up?
Yep, you are.
Okay,
Yep, you
don't
are.
scare me. I think I went live on the wrong page.
Oh, you're perfect. All right, I'm gonna start the recording button. Well, just make sure that Twitch and Facebook are both muted before I do that. Yep, muted over here, muted over here. All right.
Sweet.
It's Sunday night, everybody.
Good luck. My husband's about to take a midterm. Everybody wish him luck.
Oh, good luck, Alex.
YouTube. YouTube is failing.
My husband is about to affix a giant bookshelf to the wall with Roz helping him, so let's all wish him a little bit of luck, too.
Good luck.
Oh, Chris is here. Hi, Chris. I'm writing you an email right now to clarify all of our craziness. We love you.
Thank you, Shiny Mechanic. All right, so YouTube is just like, I'm not going to work with you tonight, so there's that. I will try. Yeah, the camera's going the wrong direction. That's so weird.
Which camera?
You know what? I'm just going to cancel it. So YouTube is trying to stream out the window. I can't get it to use the front camera that I'm using over here, so that's fine. You know what? I mean, that's not the biggest problem I've had to solve today. So, whatever. We'll export one of these cameras to YouTube later. It'll be fine. Yay! Welcome to the Fitness Protection Program. I'm Coach MK.
I'm Coach Sarah.
Yay! And we got some questions to answer while other people get ready, too.
We have so many questions.
So many questions.
We have a big night tonight. I hope that nobody is planning on going to bed early because you're not going anywhere.
No. Right, we got a lot of questions. But the first thing before we get into diving into the questions, something I wanted to throw out here to make really clear. Because I did get an email about this earlier in the week. Hey, Coach MK, blah, blah, blah. You'll see me in September. I can't wait for the 10-week plan. I'm like, wait, what? I want to be very clear about this. I am not selling 10-week marathon plans. I am not selling 10-week marathon plans. What I'm doing is selling you an auto-subscription into a program and a different way of looking at the running that you do that keeps you super active in the off-season, building a gigantic and maintaining a ridiculous base that allows you to pivot at will. And when you have a bigger base, that with the crux of which is a longer long run, then you have more options and only need 10 weeks to ramp up to a marathon. So to be really, really super duper clear, Marine, we're going to do some math together, okay? I went to Wharton. I should be able to do math. I just avoid it at all costs.
My degree is in Italian, so yeah, I'm going to let you do the math, Wharton.
Amazing. So I guess the first question I would say, like, before you go get yourself a handy-dandy little calendar, when's your race? How many weeks out are you? It's my favorite question. People are like, I don't know. Well, we can start here. What week of the year are we in? There are 52 weeks in a year. Are we in week 19? 38? What you reckon? When it comes to time, humans, like our generation, has a very loose grasp of it. We are more into our to-do lists than time, because time's always running out. There's always more to do, and it's a lot. It can feel like a whole lot of pressure. I get it. And this is my favorite trick as a coach. I'm like, okay, you're mile 18 of the marathon. How many left? And always once in a while, I'll get like a person. Well, I'll start talking. Like I'll find myself kind of in a battle with their ego, as opposed to like actually talking to the person. So you don't have to convince me how smart you are or how much you like math. What or how good you are at it. It's the question comes down to, when is exactity, exactness a good use of your time? And if I'd had an analyst that was like, had to have everything out to like the nth degree, I would have been like that. I would argue that like 11 digits does not improve the product significantly, but it's a big time suck. So it's kind of knowing when to go and when to not. But still, you sometimes a higher level understanding of kind of where you are in the grand scheme of things is more important than exactity, exactness. So, and here's why this matters. It's easy to be like, oh, I'm running Marine Corps. It's far. It's so far. It's far away. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. It's always 2 weeks before New York. And New York's the first weekend in November, so that means this year it's probably on the 20th, October the 20th. Okay, so if you're getting ready to run Marine Corps on October the 20th, when would your 10-week plan kick off, Sarah?
My 10-week plan. When would it kick off?
Yep.
See, I told you. Reason Italian. I don't know. But a long time. It's a long ways away, okay? I don't need to worry about it.
Okay, well, it's 10 weeks before. So the 10-week plan would kick off on August the 17th.
Yes. Okay. I knew that.
Okay.
August the 17th, yes.
Or if you were the week of August the 17th, which would be the 12th, actually. So to that, how many weeks away is that? I've still got so much time.
Oh, well, let's see.
Grab a calendar and look, you guys.
I know that. So that's 2 months. That's 2 months.
Yep.
2 months is... What amount of time is 2 months? That is the amount of time that we suggest you train and maintain at a minimum. Before you start a 10-week ramp. Minimum. We prefer 3, though.
We prefer 3, and if you were going to do a full 3 months as your lead-in before using one of our 10-week marathon training plans, then you should have started on June the 3rd and maintain. That's for 3 months. If you were going to get 2, you've got a little more time, but to be perfectly honest, like, later is now, you guys. It's if you tell yourself later, what you're saying is like, you're saying it's not going to happen. And we had this happen a lot, more frequently than a lot of people care to admit. And other programs would be like, oh, well, it's a 16-week plan. I'd be like, no, it's a 20-week plan. And people would come in late, and they'd be really mad and feel really pressured that they're behind. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. It's not a secret. So, and when it comes to maintaining, they're part of the reason I always demanded longer training plans. It has a big part of doing, where it's in no small part that the reason we needed more time was because you got to respect the distance, and most people weren't training as much as they thought they were. And that's okay. We're moms. We need the leeway. It's not a bad thing to have extra time to in case, your kids are going to get sick. Things are going to happen. And then all of a sudden, you're off plan or you're behind. So rather than be like, here's the bare minimum you need to go, I'm like, well, we're just going to have a longer plan. But then people were like, that was too long. That was too hard. I can't be in training mode all the time, which is a fair point. So I'm like, well, the only way to change that conversation is to make sure you're training at a high level all the time, and not a hard level, but you're running the way that you would on that training plan. And this is what I have my local runners do. It's what I have my one-on-one clients do. They all run 5 days a week. There is no 4-day-a-week plan, and there shouldn't be, because it's not a good idea. It is really not. For most runners that would consider working with me, and I say that kindly, because a whole lot of elites, I don't have the creds. I've got to be better than them if I'm going to get their attention. Professionals too. And I don't position myself that way as like the best of the best and the coachiest coach. So that means I'm not going to attract a certain demographic. The demographic I do attract, most of you guys need more time to get ready, more leeway while we're in it. So why would we be trying to make the shortest plan possible when everything you do, you demand the best possible outcome for yourself? So you can have goals, you can do cool stuff, you can work really hard without putting the extraordinary pressure on every day that you're there, thinking you need to earn the value of what you paid because that didn't go to other things in your household. Or like the pressure you put on I've seen people put on themselves is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So with Fitness Protection, what we've put together, you pay for a whole year. Less than half of what I paid to train with Jackrabbit Sports, which was an amazing program for the New York City Marathon back in 2009. less than half. So, again, amazing people if you can afford it, if you are living there, if you can make all their group runs, it's a terrific value and a really great program. But I didn't at the time. A lot of folks don't. I want this to be the most egalitarian program possible, sort of democratize the anti-Peloton. No offense to Peloton, I can't afford Peloton. Or, sorry, we don't have a place to put it. So, there is that. Seriously. Everybody has room for running shoes, or at least one more pair of running shoes.
So guys, here's the deal. If you're running a fall race, get your butts in maintain, because you need to be maintaining before you can ramp up to a marathon in 10 weeks. You can't just magically ramp up to a marathon in 10 weeks.
That's
if
true.
You're in maintain already, you know this. If you're magical thinking mode outside of maintain, come join us, because we're having a lot of fun. We're not stressing out about things. And even when we start our marathon ramp, we're also not going to be stressing out about things, because we're just going to be very slightly adding on to what we're already doing for fun.
Totally. Because remember, like, why did I give everyone 3 20-mile training runs? I sat in a training course where the leader of the course 2 years ago stared me down and was like, nobody needs 3 20-mile runs. And I knew where that question came from. And I rolled my eyes and I smiled and I kept my mouth shut. And then I went along with it just like I always do. I don't get enough credit for the things I don't say. But I was like, you're right. No one needs 3 20-mile training runs, but my demographic needs 3 opportunities to run 20 miles at least once. Because if the one day things fall apart and that training cycle is the night before the 20-mile training run, they are not going to trust anything that happens from that point forward. Like their anxiety is fed. There's nothing I can say that's going to convince them that they're going to be fine. Hence, 3 opportunities. It's not about physiological need. Not everything in a training plan is about physiological need. And it shouldn't be. Like, what I do is easily, especially in the one-on-one training, which is, I'm not selling, I'm booked at the moment. But that's easily 70% psychology. And that's why I'm booked at the moment. I can only manage the psyche, the soul, and the mental health of a very finite number of athletes at a time. But I can do a guided DIY with everyone else. So there's a lot of psychology baked into the training plans that takes the pressure off over time if you're good. So it's not about like, oh, I missed that tempo run. Yeah, who cares? I do this to keep it fun on a month-to-month basis, not because you needed, physiologically speaking, that thing and we got to go make it up. We don't make up runs. Either there's no time, but there's also no pressure and no reason. So I'll stop there. I could easily talk all night about like why we do things the way we do, but the point is this: once you've completed that 8 to 12 week, 2 to 3 month on-ramp, then you're on the highway. And once you're on the highway, you're cruising. You can maintain as long as you want, and you don't have to do much to ramp up for performance and a half or the distance of a full. And I personally like having options. So I want to maximize the options available to you, and I can't do that unless you are in maintain today. So later starts now, you guys. Let's get in there. Second thing I want to say before we go any further is runner interrupted. I thank you for your patience. I know people have been waiting on that for a while. I am tentatively, fingers crossed, I'm finalizing some things this week, but I am tentatively hoping to launch the beta on August the 1st. So if you have already emailed me about Runner Interrupted, you are on the list. Don't worry about it. If you're no longer injured and you want off the list, don't email me. I just ignore the email when it comes through, decline the request when I put you in the Facebook page. It's going to be fine. But if you know someone who's injured and has worked with me before, because this is going to be a very intense experience. So, if they're already I would say, like, I'm not saying no to brand new people. I'm just saying that I'm a lot. My perspective is very different. And someone who's in a delicate state might not appreciate what I bring to the table. So if you know someone that could benefit from Runner Interrupted, don't hesitate to let them know that the beta is opening up. The way to get on the list is to email info@coastandlove.com, and I will take care of that. If you do not hear back from me, it's not a bad thing. Don't worry about it. I tend to take these emails and I put them in a folder so they can't be deleted and can't be missed. I don't reply to all of them. So make sure you put Runner Interrupted in the header. Build, we're pushing back a little bit until Sarah is with us full time, just to make sure that we can make sure that people who are in build get the attention that they deserve. My fear is opening a program for people that are new to fitness. Like, the last thing they need is less of us. So making sure that we're meeting needs all over the place. We're pushing Rebuild back and pushing Runner Interrupted up, but that one's about ready to go. So we've had a lot going on. We've recorded some podcasts this morning for you guys, and this too. If you're not already subscribing to the Morning Mantra, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and subscribe now. The Fitness Protection podcasts will be coming out under the Mantra feed until part 2 is ready to go, which is going to be very, very soon. So all the Q&A podcast, all the Q&A sessions that you're watching here will be available in podcast form for the Fitness Protection, the podcast, very soon. But for now, hop on over to Morning Mantra. We'll be using that RSS feed until we're ready to move from there.
And now that I know this is being recorded, I am going to be not overthinking how my voice sounds at all this entire time.
You know, you can't afford to think about that ever, Sarah.
I know.
Like things you become really cognizant of when we had the video element, though. It's like, I know I purse my lips. Like, it's one of the, when I was little, I got this a lot. Like, you look so angry. Your working face. You look so angry. Could you not look angry? Could you look less angry? You scare people. I'm like,
when we were,
so I started making a kissy face just to be a bitch about it. Like,
when we were in Philadelphia, we were out to dinner with your friends, and you were doing your posts for all of the 50-mile ladies. Your two friends and I were looking at each other, and we were like, yeah, this is her working face. And I was like, good, we all understand each other.
And I know it's cartoonish, but that is quite literally where it comes from.
It's not. I love it so much. It's the best.
So yeah, so that's fun, and Megan.
Marina, right?
Marina, yeah. Sorry, her name. I almost said Martina, and I'm like, I know that's wrong. Megan and Marina are amazing, and I'm tickled you got to meet them. But yay! Yeah, but so when you have, it's one thing to hear your voice. It is another thing to see your face, and I'm like, I do that a lot, and I wasn't aware of that either. So it's kind of funny. I remember watching the Kardashians go to media training once on their TV show, and they were unaware of how much they use their hands, and I can't imagine being on camera that much, but I feel like a lot of the decisions that they make regarding their bodies that people kind of go, I just don't understand what they're doing. I'm like, you know what, if you saw yourself through a camera lens that much, you would probably make the same choices. It's not about like, it's like, what would it take for me to get there? Oh, your life. That's right. So
exactly,
you're going to have a whole lot of fun once we turn the camera on you, Coach Sarah. So start practicing in the mirror.
I'm working on all of it. Yeah, I'm practicing the mirror. Working on actually taking my mascara off at night so that I don't always have circles around my eyes.
Well, sorry, I just saw Butts.
I have to take off all the mascara.
I just saw the comment in Twitch, Butts love maintain. This is true, Butts love maintain. Coach Sarah loves clams.
Coach, tomorrow's clam day. Rebuild. Get ready. Tomorrow's clam day. I'm going to be crying in my office.
That's just because you work at Harvard.
Yeah. Well, yes. I'm just going to be crying a little extra because my hips are going to hate me.
Well, hips don't lie, and neither do I. What's the first question we got? We're going to start with Rebuild. I'm answering all the questions from the Fitness Protection Program tonight because we have fewer questions over in Rebuild. We're going to start there. If you are in Maintain, go to the Google Doc, hop in that Google Doc, and get your question in. We have not closed Maintained responses. We have closed Rebuild. We'll give you a heads up as we start to address the Maintain questions. At that point, the form will no longer accept them because we don't want to miss anything. If you do not use Facebook but are somehow still watching this broadcast, then go ahead and send your question to info@coachedandloved.com. I will check that inbox before the stream ends. But yeah, right now we're gonna go ahead and dive right in. I'm looking at this. Where's my timestamp? It just disappeared.
I know the answer to the first one.
Do you? Well, let's fire away.
Okay. The question is, where can I find videos of silly toes? I see it on my plan, but I can't find a demonstration anywhere. Let me tell you something. I filmed a demonstration of silly toes, and if you are using this form, I presume that you are in the Rebuild Facebook group, and if you are in the Rebuild Facebook group, that video exists in the announcements section because it's from a little while ago, so I tagged it as an announcement. So go to the Rebuild group, go to announcements, and then you may have to scroll down a little ways. Now, just a note, it's a long video because I did silly toes at the beginning, and then I did some other warm-up stuff that is not part of silly toes and not required, but it's just what I do for my warm-up anyway.
Wait, what do you do? I need to go watch that video now.
Oh, I do like the plyo stuff that you were having the
Oh yeah.
the 3 days of the fair ladies doing.
Okay.
But in the video, the first like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes is I'm just walking through all of the silly toes exercises. I make it very clear. I break it down, and I also make it very clear that that is all you have to do. And then I do silly toes again at the very end, just so that there's no confusion. So go find that. And actually, I've been thinking that what I'm going to do, I have it downloaded on my phone too. I'm going to crop out the part that's just silly toes, and I'll repost it and label it a little bit more clearly. And I will add the Canva that I made that has all the silly toes written out.
I was just sitting here laughing because I was like, I can't believe that after all the talking we did this afternoon, well, this is what I do. Here's what I do. It's one thing when like that's the kiss of death when it's spoken by like someone that you think wants to work with you in a coaching capacity. It is something entirely different when the person working for you says it to the clients.
I'm fired.
But no, what you do is what I told you to do. I'll take it. I'll take it. And by the way, in case you're wondering what we're talking about, this is an inside joke among coaches. I've heard it before. I got to hear it again the other day when I was blessed to get to meet a running fat chef, LaToya Snell, who was in town. And we hung out in Boulder where she was there filming stuff and doing photo shoots for Ultimate Direction. And with some very high-end athletes, trail athletes. And one by one, we're all kind of laughing. Talking about how when they interact with fans, one guy had written a book. And if I said his name, you would recognize it, so I probably shouldn't say his name. But he was like, nothing's worse than when you meet somebody who's read your book and they come up to you and they're like, well, this is what I do. And, and everyone started laughing. And I'm like, yeah, oh my God, it's so true. So FYI, here's what I do. This is what I do. Once you say that to a coach, like that's just don't say that to a coach. Don't say that to a professional runner. Don't say it to an elite runner. Just like, here's what I do never leads anywhere good in a conversation. It usually means, well, I'm not listening to you, or you're devolving into a pissing contest. Make sure you're going to win that pissing contest. Especially if the person you're talking to is famous for being really good at running.
Well, so here's what I'm gonna do, Coach MK. I'm gonna like bump this back to the top. I'm gonna take the silly toes video. I'm gonna bump it back to the top of the announcement so that everyone sees it when they go to announcements. I'm gonna do that in Rebuild, and I'm gonna do it in Maintain.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good. Even I know I went slightly rogue on that one. I know. But
it's fine.
I will have you know that everything that I do in this video is actually things that you said to do.
Well, I mean, that's the only reason it caught my attention is because we filmed a podcast this morning, you guys, and we spent a good 10 minutes talking about this. And I'm like, you said what? Oh wait, that's what I said to do. Okay. Here's the stretching routine recommend. We can't. I like I said last week, I can't recommend stretches because if even the chances of a person hurting themselves on a foam roller, tiny. The chances of a person hurting themselves doing a stretch, huge. Common. Happens. So to that effect, I won't assign stretching. If there's a stretch you want to do, here's what I do. You go do that. I can't assign it in an online massive group program like this. So yeah, there's that. Right. Next question.
Next question. Rebuild question 2. What is your advice for race training? I am loving being on Rebuild and will probably move to Maintain next. I love Rebuild, but I think I can handle the Maintain plan at this point. Rebuild is perfect right now for my crazy end-of-year teaching and life with 3 teens/tweens. Anyhow, I did the monthly/monthly to half marathon plans for March half. I'm planning on November half. Is there any type of transition program from Maintain in fitness protection? Sorry, so long-winded. I think we have very much laid the groundwork to answer that question fairly efficiently, don't you think?
I think so. Why don't you go ahead and take it?
Well, question asker, our advice for race training is it kind of depends on the distance. It sounds, you're planning on November half. So in that case, all you really need to complete a half is to be on Maintain for preferably 3 months.
And then you can just show up and probably most people can just show up and run a half.
Exactly. That is what a bunch of people in Maintain have already done that this summer. My best running friend Lisa Green showed up to a half where it was horribly hot outside. There was no shade, and she ran like a 13-minute PR. But I digress. That all she did was alter the week leading up to the race. And MK has a video back in the Twitch channel somewhere where she goes over, and so it probably lives on YouTube now, actually.
It lives in YouTube.
The video where you go over what to do for the taper week. Mm-hmm. That is all she did differently. She did nothing else except maintain until that last week before the race. So that's all you need. However, if you're looking at a November half, we are going to have some plans that will do some more half marathon specific training for a half marathon. Those will be, I think, 6 weeks. Is that right, MK?
Yes, and I'm not billing them as a performance plan, but
Correct.
because I just don't like that way of looking at the world. I feel like it leads to bad decisions. Like, because then it makes it about the plan and not about you. Did I make the right choice? Like, you're living in the right body. You're good. What we need to do is make everything around you work for you, and we can't do that when we're, haggling about the ins and the outs of the plan. So the way I like to think about it, the longest run in maintain will pretty much always be 2 hours, and I think the tops is 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that's not what you're seeing right now. That changes throughout the year. Like some months it's a little bit shorter, like 220, and those are the months when we're super busy. Others it's a little longer because I know that some people I want to give those who are considering a marathon or a longer distance. I want them to have I want to keep that option alive. And the minute that our long run dives beneath 2 hours, it is really hard mentally and less physiologically, but much more mentally to get back there. There's a certain amount, I could talk all day long about the long run and why it's important. It's like, it really is the most important run of the week, and it's also the biggest time suck, pain in the butt. Gets into the cutting into family time run, and you can't sleep in and have family time. Like when you're not in a training cycle, the long run, unfortunately, is one of the first things to go for most runners. And in maintain, we keep it there, and when nothing shorter than 95 minutes, and that's important physiologically, and nothing longer than 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that's important psychologically, because it makes. When you're ramping back up, it's not a huge lifestyle change. Your longest long run is only marginally longer than what you're normally doing. But when you go from not really doing a long run and not really running on the weekend to like, oh my God, the longest run is like 4.5 hours. It's so long. It's ridiculous. Why do I have to run so long? I'm like, we're training for a damn marathon. What you want from me? So it changes the conversation a little bit if we keep you in that sweet spot of 95 minutes to just under 3 hours, then having to run for 3 hours and 30 minutes, it's like, no big deal. Then the ramp up isn't that big of a ramp. The lifestyle is already there. It's not a high adaptation rate. It's like it's minimal changes lead to maximal results. Hello, Miss Roz.
I was coming in to say her weekly hello and good night to everybody.
Hi.
See, I'm waving to you.
Hello.
Hello. Are you been watching Moana?
What did you watch today?
Totoro.
I was watching My Name or Totoro today. You have not seen it. Okay, well, that is, yes, that is, I was trying to pronounce it slightly correctly since MK actually speaks Japanese and probably knows that's what it's supposed to say.
Yeah.
All right, big kiss. I love you. Mwah. This is from MK too.
Mwah.
A hug. Okay, give me a hug. Good night, bud. And
cute.
we're back.
Yay! It's so cute.
Thank you, everyone, for indulging Roz's weekly need to be the center of attention for a hot second. She really appreciates it.
I'm just saying, everybody needs attention. Everybody needs validation. We all need to be seen and heard, Sarah. It's okay.
Yeah, especially, only children who have two parents who are always around them on the weekends all weekend long.
I'm just saying, it's kind of easier having four in a lot of ways. It really is. Plus it's like resources, right? When you have one child, there is everything that you do is taking away from the child. And the child is this noble concept that never, oh, bye, Gretchen, have a good night. I take care of Superman, make sure he's taking care of his Superwoman too, but I hear he's good at that. But I have this conversation with my friends a lot. When you have one child, like, every resource is a trade-off. We could do this or we could do for the child. And the child's always going to win in that paradigm. When you got 4, that thing, you got to like replicate it 3 additional times. And then, so everything becomes a no. It's like, Mom, can I play soccer? No! Mom, can we? No! Mom, can we go to Disney World? Are you kidding me? Like, all those plane tickets.
Oh man,
no.
that one is coming in hot. The Disney World is coming in hot. She's got a friend who always talks about it. She's like, Mom, and she wants to do everything the friend does. And yeah, no.
And there will be people who say to you, well, we have 3 children, you only have 1. As though the word just or only belongs in that sentence. But no, for real, that's how a lot of people say it. Or that's, and when she comes home and says it, well, they have 4 children and they've went, oh. I'm not looking forward to that, but that's it. This is why I say, like, in so many ways, I have it easier because no one expects anything from you when you have as many kids as I do. They're just happy you bought new clothes once in a while. Oh, that's so amazing. You have money for new clothes. It's cool. I don't sew them myself. It's a miracle.
I loved when I was watching the strength videos for June, and I watched a few of them in a row, and there was just like a parade of different sized children just kind of walking through at different intervals. It was so charming and hilarious. I love it.
Thank you. I think they're charming and hilarious most of the time. I don't know. It kind of depends on the day. It depends on the day.
Yeah. All right, we adequately answer this question about transition from maintain to race to half marathon distance?
I mean, I think you did. From maintain, you don't really need a transition. If you're we're going to have the 6-week plans coming out, but that's more. I'm going to make it really clear on there. You need to have been in here for about 2 months before considering using this, but you know what? You also don't really need it. Because again, the long run is pretty long. So even if you think it might take you 4 hours to finish this half marathon, you're going to be ready to cover the distance. It's going to be okay. So to that end, the biggest question you need to ask yourself is from rebuild to maintain. What am I ready to do? And then making sure you're monitoring yourself using all of the frameworks that we put in the membership area of the website. Going forward. And if you can't get into the website, by the way, we're still working on that issue. I'm waiting to hear back from Wix. I don't know what happened, but I have a workaround. If you have not heard from me, I apologize. Email me again. I'm going to get, and don't let me forget to talk to Christine O'Brien. She's been waiting on me the longest. But it was a snafu with the third-party provider, and we fixed it now. But for all but 4 people are still having some trouble logging in that I'm aware of. So if you can't get to those, let me know. I'll send you a screenshot. If not, then if everybody else, go ahead. Please write down your login when you log into the site. If you log in with Google or Facebook, I know it's silly. Like, I will so frequently click Facebook just so I don't have to remember another login set. But we have equal numbers of people that have utilized both either the Facebook or the Google option, so I can't turn one off now. To that end, just remember your password, and don't. The bigger transition is rebuild and maintain. It is not maintain to a training plan. What we do in maintain is just make sure that you are transition. You're doing so much that you're not overloaded, but you really don't need a transition.
Yep, that's pretty cool.
And now I'm adding the stream marker for Susan.
Stream marker.
Maintain
time.
Dokie.
Okay.
Next.
Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
My question is about the nasty speed word. I am not thinking about the physical side of speed. I trust the training and I'm being diligent about my strength work. My question is really more about the mental side to running faster. I have a full marathon in fall. My goal is to be faster than my first marathon. I would love to be around 5 hours. So how do I train my mind that I can run faster? How do you train your mind to not want to slow down?
That's a tough one. It's more often than not, when people come to me saying things like that, it's the insecurity arises from the fact, well, how am I going to run this pace for the first time? You've said nothing new on race day, and I can see why that feels fair. It's too, like, I just don't know that I can do this. And when it comes to something like insecurity, it's really hard to allay those fears. Like, I can say all day long, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready. You can look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. But that's invalidating. It doesn't really meet you where you're at. Like saying, I'm fearless doesn't really help when you're scared. So that's why, I use mantras. That's why I have the podcast, The Morning Mantra. It's to kind of, I'm faster than I think I am. I'm faster than I think I am. Because remember that big pyramid that I drew, I think I did that on Facebook Live maybe, but it's definitely in the repository if you head over to the YouTube channel. I drew a big triangle and I was like, all right, so you can hold 140 pace for a really long time, like let's say 6 hours plus. And then the faster you go, the shorter the duration. Right, so what people are kind of really asking is, I know I want to go faster, how much faster? Huh?
I'll see if I can find a link while you talk.
Oh, thank you.
That's a really good one. Yeah.
Thank you. It's I think that one was relatively short too, because what I was trying to get at in the video was saying, okay, this is what it means by learning to run by feel and learn what effort levels are. Where I specialize, the way I view my coaching practice is I am teaching people what easy effort actually is, because it never ceases to amaze me how few people know. Which leads to the next part. When I meet a runner for the first time, more often than not, they've been racing their training. And when I think about how hard they've gone and how frequently they've gone, I'm like, you basically ran 3 10Ks this week. This week you've run 3 10Ks. That just boggles my mind. Your average heart rate was 183. That's about right for a 5K. Somehow you stopped, took a drink of water, redid your shoes, and then went out again. So like you raced a 5K and then you kept going. That's unheard of. And so when it comes to, I don't think your mind needs to be trained. I don't think most people need to train their minds. Like, you already go, before we were working together, chances are pretty good you were going harder more consistently then than you're going to do for one day now. The insecurity arises from like, am I ready for it? Shoot, yeah, if you've been doing the training, you're ready. Do I know what I need to do? No, and you never will. That's why I present things the way that I do, even though the EAT came out like for everyone as a straight line. Here's the tightrope you got to walk. And I'm like, no, it's the line you don't cross. I don't care where beneath that line you are, just don't cross it. It's 140, it's a cap. It's not a target. I don't need you near it. You can be running 132 and you're still holding the rule. You could be at 108 and still be holding the rule. It's when you go over, when you cross the line, I can't make any guarantees. But if you're on this side of it, it doesn't matter how far you are on this side. And that is just, I don't get it. That is so not used to what most of us have been conditioned to do, especially women.
Yeah.
So you're probably, there's very little I can say to assure you that you're going to be fine until you've been here for a while and you trust your body more and you trust the process more. Because the final note, when you know more about effort levels than you think you do. Marathon effort, there is not a big difference between easy effort and marathon effort. That's, again, why we used to do the EAT, and that's going to be coming back, but we're going to be presenting it very, very differently. I stand by it. It's valuable. I used to assign, at the track, I would assign Cooper tests, and people, I would be like, they would finish, and I would be like, wait, I'm looking at your heart rate here. You could have gone faster. And they're like, oh, no, but I just knew I needed to do this for 20 minutes, and that's a long time. So they would have underperformed. And when you underperform a Cooper test, the whole thing is invalid. So I had to throw that away and be like, all right, instead of, what's a different way I can give instructions to get to the desired result, the result that I need. And that was when I started looking through my toolbox and found the enhanced anaerobic threshold, the EAT. So to that end, and I know I tell the story about how I trained at 18 and a half minute miles for 3.5 months and then turned around and ran 14 and a half minute miles for 2 months, then ran 9:06 average pace at the 9:26 average pace at the New York City Marathon later that fall. There's a differential there that came from, it was a boost from coming down from altitude. It was a boost because I really upped my strength training there in the end. There was a lot that kind of came in. I know the course like the back of my hand. I know I love being in New York. I was definitely on a high. There are a lot of things that came together to make that leap happen, but there is nothing in my coaching toolkit now that would have predicted that outcome was even remotely possible. So I can't promise you that unless you're coming from where I was, that this is going to be the result. But I can tell you this, for most humans, that spread between your 5K pace and your easy effort pace is pretty big. The smaller it is, the harder it is to get results of any kind. So if you are more than 2 minutes per mile faster on race day, you're probably going too fast. Let's slow that down. You don't want to kind of hit that point of faster until much later in the race. But start conservatively. You can, the worst case scenario, you're batting up, the thing you can always fall back on. If all else goes wrong, you can run that whole thing easy effort. That's like that's not even the worst case scenario. That's just like, I don't know what else to do. I'm going to do this. So that's what I would say about speed. You've got more than you think you do. And if you're not sure, double down on the strength. We can always have a little more strength that goes a long way. But other than that, trust your body.
Yeah. I just want to say, too, that I really relate to this question because it's been a while since I ran a full marathon. I'm planning to run a full marathon this fall. And I definitely, I come up against this in my head a lot. So I'm running Clarence DeMar unless the weather sucks that week. It's great because you don't have to sign up until week up. It doesn't fill up, and it's local for me, basically.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I was going to run it last year, but then I decided not to, and so I didn't. But I was planning on it. This year I'm planning on it more firmly.
Cool.
But yeah, I come up on this in my head, and when I'm running at different effort levels and workouts, I get to a point where I'm like, wow, am I really thinking about doing this for likely more than 4 hours? Like, how, can my brain really handle that? And
that's the thing I wish people would wrap their brain around, just the way you said it. They worry about the time. Am I really going to hit this time? As opposed to thinking about, I'm going to be out there for 4.5, for 5, for 6 hours. That's a long time. So people worry more about the execution than they do about the event. So similar right now, what week are we in? 52 weeks in a year. You ought to have a good idea where we're at. Are we in week 18 or are we in week 25? Most people 23. Don't know because we don't think about it that way. And that's, again, it's okay. But I don't want everybody to be in this time is running out, which is where we all kind of live, but time's always going to feel like it's running out if you're not looking at the whole. And the whole is not like when you finish. It's like, am I going to run a 4:15 or a 4:35? It's like, are you ready to do one thing continuously for 4.5 hours?
Exactly.
Worry about that.
Worry about that. and know that you're doing the right thing now to be getting ready for that. Know that the work that you are doing is preparing you to be out there doing one thing continuously for a very long time. And I know that it's really hard to kind of reframe I so intensely relate to my goal is to be faster than my first marathon. That number matters to you. And I think you're being really smart by saying, I recognize that this is this is a thing that's sticking in my brain and that this matters to me.
And no one should have to apologize for that. Those feelings are legit and valid.
Exactly.
I get it. I'm never going to shame you for wanting to be faster. And Coach Sarah
recognizing that it's important to you is really good, though. It's better to do that than to say, oh, I don't care, but then actually discover that you did care and you should have listened to the fact that you cared. Yeah. Not because it would have made you run differently, but because it matters to acknowledge yourself and to validate what's important to you. But I think that it's also sort of worth trying to reframe it and saying, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to be tenacious as fuck, and I'm going to be doing one thing continuously, if all goes well, for somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 hours. This is the work that I'm doing now. And I would hate for you to start this race, or inhabit this training cycle feeling really stressed out about that number, because that's going to take a lot of the joy out of it for you. And I really don't want that for you. I want you to experience the training cycle differently.
And I almost never believe it when someone says to me, I don't really care about the time, because overachievers are great at giving the right answer instead of the true answer, and they think that I think the right answer is, I don't really care about my finish time. And I'm like, it depends on how we entered this. So everyone wants to be faster than they were before, broadly and generally speaking, because we were raised in that type of environment in a school system that's like, if you repeat the same grade, the only reason that would happen was because you failed it. The only reason you would you would have a longer plan or have more work is because you just weren't as smart as the other kids, or you were behind in some way. It felt punitive. Going to summer school, having to go to tutoring, it felt punitive. No one did that to get ahead. They did it because they were behind. So in when I say, oh, let's take a little more time with this, people are always like, no, why? And it gets almost hostile. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to be faster. There is something very wrong with figuring that out when the training cycle starts, because it's too late.
Yeah.
That's why we maintain all year. Like, so people ask me, what do I need to do to get faster? And I'm like, not stop. Keep going. Mm-hmm. One of the two.
And be willing to still be here if this race in the fall doesn't go your way for whatever reason. Be willing to stay, stay and not stop, because hanging in there and just continuing the work and talking to us about it, talking through how you feel about it, but being willing to examine how you're feeling about it. That's how you stay consistent. That's how you stay focused and committed, and that is how you get faster.
Love it. It's true. Perfectly said. With that, next question.
Okay. I just had it now. All right. What is the deal with training threshold notifications in Training Peaks? They seem to happen a lot, and the values go up and down. What does it even mean?
Okay,
Great question.
There are multiple reasons why that happens, and they annoy me too. Personally, I think it's a gimmicky marketing thing. There are two thresholds that are calculated. One is your ventilatory threshold, which is, and they don't really advertise that or talk about it on the website. I just know it. So for the average person, that's why I remember in podcasts that no longer exist, I talked about there is a ceiling that you can lift and a floor that you can't fall through. So that tempo, when people are trying, like, I'm trying to raise my tempo pace, my anaerobic, like, yeah, fine, great. That's why you do track work and lactate clearing work. It's like a roof you can raise, but when it comes to the oxygen metabolysis place, that where you are metabolizing more oxygen than sugar, that's the ventilatory threshold. And for most humans, it's within a couple of standard deviations of 140. It's a function of biology, and it cannot be trained away. And it does not move. So there are two thresholds. Only one, when we talk about tempo runs, your threshold runs, threshold pace, threshold. That threshold is the higher number of the two. The ventilatory threshold, again, is a biological function, does not move, but the system can decide over time, because most of these are 42-day rolling averages, that it made an error and will correct that error. And the notification you get does not differentiate between those two thresholds or what would have prompted the recalculation. You just get it. So if I were you, I would, and it bothers you, go into your settings and go into your notification settings and turn that off. Because again, the number that it shows you, it's not like, oh, this system says my heart rate cap can be 146. I'm like, no, that's not what it says. When we're talking about, it's probably easier. I'm a visual person. It's just easier to draw this a little bit. So this is the X and the Y axis is going to be your heart rate. The higher your heart rate is, the harder you work. You're no longer metabolizing oxygen, right? You are metabolizing more glucose, more sugar than you are oxygen to keep moving. And there's a finite amount of oxygen, there's an infinite amount of oxygen that's in your blood all the time. But sometimes you're working too hard for your body to access it. So that's when it turns to sugar. Sugar is much easier for it to use. Where that conversion point starts to happen, again, somewhere around 128. And again, that's a biological function. It does not change. Once you get to roughly around 140, and this is why 140 is the number that they used to give pregnant women, they being doctors, don't keep your heart rate under 140. If you've ever had surgery, oral surgery, ENT surgery, then the surgeon probably told you, okay, you can walk, but we've really got to keep your heart rate under 140. Where that number comes from is like it's where your veins will start to dilate to make room for the increased blood flow, and that causes inflammation, which is not a bad thing necessarily unless you just had surgery and you need those blood vessels to heal, in which case we need to not work, we need to heal literally, and then work can come later when that's secure. So if you think about it, 140 is where I ask you guys to stay because it's just an easy number to remember. And if you really want to go get those fancy metabolic tests or be like, well, I'm going to do what Training Peaks says, then here's the mistake that you're making. That number that they're showing you, it's so up here, roughly around 180, it's 100% sugar. You are not utilizing oxygen at all. Around 140, it's still maximally oxygen. You're burning some sugar, but it's way more oxygen than sugar. That other threshold that they show you, that's 50-50. So let's say it's 143, then congratulations. At 143, you're burning 50% oxygen, 50% sugar. So yeah, you need to stay under 140. See the logic?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that the cap goes up. It's like I'm giving you a number that underneath this number you are safely burning more oxygen than sugar.
Yep. So essentially the short answer, the extremely short answer is it doesn't really mean anything that particularly concerns us. Like it doesn't mean anything that is going to alter what you're doing in your training, right?
Totally. It really doesn't. The only thing that might be interesting, and you can go look at it at any time, there are two systems that auto-calculate numbers, because remember, this is a system, sorry, just getting off the wobble cushion, my booty's like not happy with it at the moment. This entire training platform was designed for triathletes, and triathletes, for multi-sport people, for people who were doing multiple cardiovascular, so that the coaches needed a broad overview of how stressed their cardio system is and where that stress is coming from and what levers they have to pull. So there are multiple systems for calculating. Some are based off of max heart rate. Others are based off of a metabolic test. Others are based off still of a 42-day rolling average that we just kind of calculate where the zones likely are. There's no one right answer, and we know there's no one right answer because there are three systems, all three of which are still used. All three are still calculated in Training Peaks. One is not necessarily better, but that's another reason why it changes all the time. So but we do it. That's another place where paying more attention isn't going to lead to better outcomes, and nothing in there negates the instructions that I've given you. So if the notifications bother you, just turn them off. But it might be interesting to know it is pretty good, that lactate threshold, that higher threshold, the threshold where, so what that determines, it has less to do with metabolic function. That is an estimation. And sometimes you'll get a pace and sometimes you get a heart rate. So that's an estimation of what you could do continuously for an hour without stopping. So when we talk about, your threshold is 176, that's pretty high. I probably wouldn't say that. It would say something like 168. So your threshold, congratulations, your threshold is 168. Yay! If you want to watch that trend over time, great, do it. If it makes you feel good, do it. If it keeps you motivated, do that. But if you're like, hey, you know what, Coach NK, the system says that my threshold heart rate is 168 and my threshold pace is 905. I've never run a 905 for very long. I'll be like, why don't you go try? Enter a race. And look at that pace or look at that heart rate, just kind of hang out. And know that and go see what happens. Or if you're like, I think I want to use this now as my 10K pace, I'll be like, okay. So there are different uses, and there's no bad use case. There's only justification for like a bad idea. And this is guided DIY. I'm not here to stop you from doing that either.
Yeah. So I'll just say, in case anyone is for whatever reason worrying about this number, mine has gone up, it's gone down. I pay no attention to it because it tells me nothing. I get nothing out of knowing whatever it has to say, so I don't care.
The only time it can kind of mean something is if you're in a training cycle with a coach that's adjusting numbers around those changing, and none of you guys are in a one-on-one program right now. But if you were working with a coach one-on-one, and especially in a multi-sport type of situation, that can become really valuable, but for the purpose, and just to make sure that that coach does not overtrain you. Most of what you see in Training Peaks, it's meant to prompt a conversation between us, assuming that I'm training you one-on-one, which I'm not. So it gives you an opportunity to be like, hey coach, the system says that my threshold's 176. Can I use this as my 10K effort cap now? You know, so that's how we use it. It's an opportunity to have a conversation about where you are in a training cycle and your fitness level. It is not something I worry about or stress out over any more than the fitness score is. The fitness number, by the way, there is no raw fitness score. There is no raw fitness score. It does not exist. The number that says fitness and Training Peaks is an aggregate measure, a 42-day rolling average of your TREMP score, which gives me an idea, or it should give you an idea, of how stressed your system is. And if that number is going up massively too quickly, then you could start to feel burned out pretty soon. But I would not stress over that number either. It's just something to be cognizant of.
Yeah. Yep, I think that every time I hear you kind of talk through those metrics, it always sort of, it helps me kind of put them in perspective, because yeah, I get, especially the fitness number, because it's called the fitness number.
Yeah.
It can get under your skin a little bit, but
my
but
fitness
really
is dropping.
anyway.
No, it isn't.
Yeah. No,
strain on your system is dropping.
Yeah.
So, and the final
question?
note I'll say about it is that my fitness number right now is roughly the same as it was right before I ran the Philadelphia Marathon in 2016, and I'm nowhere near the fitness level that I was in 2016. That is just how much load I'm carrying now, trying to come back from where I was. And I'm getting a lot stronger, but I can't take as much. So like my cardiovascular system is still pretty stressed out from the run I did this morning. Back then, my recovery time was like maybe 10 hours. So if that number is one data point, like pace, it tells me nothing. And it shouldn't tell you anything either. And if you're reading into it or trending that number, go do the math, read the book, go on the blog, find out what that number actually is, and hopefully that'll be a more thorough explanation as to why that's one of the many things that you just can't track in isolation.
Cool. Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Okay. Recently begun to know and understand what an activated glute muscle is and how it feels. I'm aware of my non-dominant side glute, but I'm not really able to feel my dominant side glute working/activate. Thoughts? Thank you for your time and energy. Love you tons. Viola.
For that, I would really go see a PT. There are a couple of tricks we can do to sort of wake it up, but if you're aware that this is happening, I would strongly advise you to go see a PT to make sure that the next step we take is the best one possible. Because I could make some suggestions, but I don't want to lead you wrong.
That makes sense. It seems like the kind of thing that you need an answer from with someone who can like touch you and move you around and like watch what's happening and show you where you need to be putting your hand to feel stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's not like your glute muscle is located in a different position than someone else. But maybe it's due to a strength imbalance. Maybe it's due to a postural imbalance. It could be, maybe it's due to the fact that like your core doesn't fire on one side and hasn't for a long time. It could be due to a lot of things, but the trick that I deploy would be very generic. And there's no guarantee it would lead to a better outcome. So when you know something like that is happening, I would absolutely just go see a physical therapist and explain it to them. They will get excited, I promise you. No one ever comes into their offices and says, I think one glute is firing but the other does not. It's more like they say to you, well, this glute isn't firing. My glutes are fine!
Right.
Here's what I do.
PTs love people that train the way we do. They love them. You will, like, if you want to feel good about yourself, go see a PT because they're going to be like, wow, you are doing an amazing job training. You're doing you're doing everything in a really smart way. You are honestly like in better shape in terms of what I have to teach you than like 90% of the people that come in here. That is, whatever the experience with the PT themselves has been, that has been my experience every time I've gone to see a PT in the last 3 years. And I think I've seen 3 different ones actually 4 different ones for different things.
It's nice, right?
You're gonna get patted on the back like it's good. You're gonna feel good. It'll be a good experience, and you'll learn some stuff.
I want to say hi real quick. I see someone just joined us. Hi, Beth. Beth Matthews. We're all thinking about you and your husband, Jason. I hope he's doing well. I hope he's home and he's doing better. So, and if you guys have been following Gabe Grunwald, I posted on my Facebook page a while ago. She's not doing well. It's a very sad situation, but she has lived longer than anyone with as many rare cancers as she's been diagnosed with could have been expected to live. My family and I will be making donations to the Brave Like Gabe Foundation in the next 24 hours, so she'll still be aware of that coming in. And I'm telling you, from anyone, if you've ever worked in a nonprofit or supported a nonprofit, but it takes a lot to start one the way she did, one of the best things you could do to support her and her family right now is even kicking $5 over there and saying, like, hey, I see the foundation, and I'm donating to your what will be your legacy. And by the way, I know we know you're leaving this earth, but you're leaving something really cool behind. That's a great way to say it.
That was a beautiful way to say it. Thank you. It's been on my mind, yeah. So I'm glad we said something about it.
It's a whole lot better than buying something with a rainbow on it for pride that does not, in fact, support LGBTQIA athletes anywhere.
That's right.
I'm pissed about that. I might get that shit out of my inbox.
Takes a lot. Yeah. It's like pink. Ugh, yeah. There are a lot of ways that, like, performative. Probably shouldn't go off on a tangent about this.
No. It's like do it or don't. Don't use it for marketing. It's tacky.
Right. Yep. Well said. Okay, next question.
Do it.
Yep. Okay. Transitioning from rebuild to maintain, does it or would it make sense to keep some of the rebuild strength work in addition to the maintain circuits?
I think it never hurts to keep some. So if you want to keep incorporating them, do it. How do you feel about that, Sarah? Because you've been executing both circuits every day. Now for how long? 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Close to a month now.
I'm kidding.
My PT, I actually, because I've been having these hamstring issues and, I have been going to PT less frequently now, but I still go once a week. And the last time I was in there, the time before that, I was like, all right, so let me just show you the other strength that I'm doing just to make sure that I'm not doing anything that you think is inadvisable. And he was like, okay. And then his eyebrows kind of went up. He's like, so you're doing all of these? And I was like, yeah, but
Here's what I do.
Okay, well.
The one time here's what I do works.
I totally here's what I do to him. But he loves fitness protection. He's all about it, and he thinks it's super cool. So he's very supportive. But
we'll send him a shirt.
I should send him a shirt. I'll get him a shirt. And he's like 6'2" probably, and maybe weighs 130 pounds soaking wet. He's 25 years old or something like that. And
oh my god.
He is the epitome of, like, the young whippet that you see running down the street.
He's the one that Roz made him turn red, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay. I remember that.
He and Roz are best buddies, and now he sees Roz twice a week because my husband goes to see him on Tuesdays, and I go to see him on Thursdays.
Amazing.
He brings Roz when he goes, and I bring Roz when I go. So he and Roz are besties.
I love it.
And yeah, he is like a teddy bear. He is the sweetest, kindest, and, like, very, very, he's a very inclusive runner. You can tell that he is not someone who, like, looks at you and judges what kind of a runner you are.
Well, we will never segregate on the basis of pace.
That is, and he loves that. He loves the way we do things. He coaches a little bit too. He coaches like 5 people at a time, so he does it very differently than we do.
Yeah,
but the one time that I got to go and not bring Roz, we, like, talked about coaching for the entire hour basically while I was doing my lunges, and it's just really interesting to hear other coaches' experiences and the way they kind of address people and talk to people through these things. So anyway, going back to the question.
Well, I was going to say that might be a good segue to the next question.
What's that? Oh, well, so we're talking about does it make sense to keep some of the rebuild strength work?
Yeah. Yeah, it can. If I had to pick one thing that they did that is done in rebuild, and be like, if you were going to add this, do it daily and do it as part of your warm-up. And that would be the side slides, 30 feet one direction and then 30 feet the other direction, followed by the monster walks forward and monster walks backward. And that would be a total of 4 minutes. And if you were to keep that in, that's fantastic. That's going to be good for your joints. It's going to be good for your muscles. Like that, if you weren't sure what to pick that.
That seems really right. Yeah, because you've said this before. Like, you don't want to do so much that you're just, like, screaming at your muscles and they kind of freeze and shut down.
Yep.
And the rebuild strength does take more time. It takes more time than the maintain strength.
But that's
and
intentional.
We don't want to overload you.
Yeah.
With stuff that you don't have time for. But I think that, yeah, the monster walks and the side slides, those are getting some really essential things, and we don't really have those in maintain, at least not this month. No. So that's carrying over really nicely.
Well, because everything that we do in rebuild is designed to activate and recruit the muscles. Everything that we do in rebuild is designed to activate and recruit the muscles, and then everything we do in maintain is designed to build them a little bit. Again, to maintain. But is the next question the coaching question for you? Because that would have been a great lead into it.
I put that one last.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so we know that I don't take up a ton of time.
Sure.
If we don't have time to answer it in a long form. Are you ready to go to the next one?
Let's do it.
Okay. Can you explain the difference between active recovery and float and sailing, and how are those different than the jog and batter? So I can at least answer the first part, and then maybe I'll let you take the second part.
I just say the float's faster.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't
so
recover.
That's what I was gonna say too.
Don't recover in the float.
Active recovery doesn't really matter what you're doing. Like as long as you're moving forward and your heart rate is going down, you're good. Float, you are only slowing down a very tiny bit.
You're not recovering. Yep.
You're not recovering.
You're catching your breath.
I did sailing this morning, and so the intervals are at half marathon pace. The float is like maybe 20 seconds per mile slower. For me, at least, I gave myself, I plotted some zones in my polar so that it wouldn't let me slow down too much.
Look at
and
you.
It's hard to only slow down a tiny bit. It's hard to only slow down a tiny bit because you
don't
feel
hold
like you're recovering. You're still working. But
and part of the reason we do that is
you do, the better you will get at that. The control, one thing I've noticed doing a lot of this strength, I had way better control over my pace, like maintaining a pace in a given zone for a long time.
Because what we're doing now is we're really teaching you these effort levels. So, because running by feel is one of the more difficult things you'll ever do. Running more slowly than you want to go in any given moment is the hardest thing you'll ever do. But if you're like the fitter you get, your body is changing, and by nature of nature of training at all, your body is changing. The paces will change. The effort level, that feel, will not. But it does take a while to be like, well, what was this right here? Was it 10K? Because it takes a long time to feel the difference, to hear it in your breathing and to feel it in your footfalls.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's, you explained it perfectly, Sarah, but I'm happy to move on to the next question because that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Active recovery is recovering. Floating is specifically not recovering.
Okay. And is active recovery different from the jog and batter?
Nope.
That was the second part of it.
Well, active recovery, I give you more so that so if I had to have speed zones, it would be like active recovery where you could walk, you could crawl. Mm-hmm. I don't really care. Mm-hmm. Actually, I do. I prefer you walking. Or just like walking. Even if you're doing the little old man walk and you're kind of wobbling back and forth, that is fine. It's got to be forward motion with your body weight on top of your ankles. Jogging is faster than that. And it's jogging.
We want you jogging. Right.
Yeah, it's only jogging. And then active recovery is, and then floating is up here. So active recovery can be what you need it to be in order to recover. Jogging is jogging, and floating is not jogging, and it's not recovery. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to be a smartass. That's just what it means.
That makes complete sense to me. Hopefully it made sense to the question asker. If it does not make sense to you and you have follow-up questions, I will be posting this video in the Facebook groups tomorrow morning. Please ask whatever follow-up questions in the comments tomorrow. All right, let's keep going because we have a lot more questions actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm looking at the time now. I'm going, this is gonna be the worst podcast.
We'll be efficient. Okay, this next one is I have a few short ones. One, what does it mean when Training Peaks says you set a new heart rate threshold? We already answered that.
Yep.
2, when you say that nutrition may be one of the contributing factors to a disappointing / craptastic run, do you mean nutrition in general or do you mean nutrition just prior to enduring the run? Both?
Both. It could be both. I have celiac, and so like the whole idea of white girl wellness that Goop tends to promote is for people like me that for years didn't have a diagnosis and we just felt bad. And doctors were like, you're fine. You're lady business and hormones and it's something, it's not a big deal. And we're like, no, something's off. I failed the blood test 6 times before they would let me get the biopsy. It was so annoying. That whole process was really annoying. So when I just forgot what I was talking about. I'm so old.
Nutrition,
yeah. So when I talk about
in general, nutrition is prior to and during the run.
Right. So when I am inflamed, when I consume something with gluten in it, my fingers get puffy. I can't get my rings on. I can barely shut my watch. For example, I will be like puffy all over, and that lasts for several days. When it comes to other humans, gluten is poison for me. Gluten is not poison, period. So I say that only to be like, it could be something you had 3 days ago. It could be what you had last night. It's hard to determine what, unless you're working with a specialist on trying to root it out with those heavy elimination diets and slowly working things back in, which is painful, but it works. So the odds are pretty good that you don't have one of those inflammation disorders that we're only just starting to learn about, the autoimmune diseases. But so how do you know? You really don't. How do you find out? Elimination diets. How do I do an elimination diet with a nutritionist? Do not ever do one with Pinterest.
Yeah. Also, just to add a little bit to this answer, I also think that the answer is both. For me, so to me, nutrition, like my nutrition in general is pretty good because I'm getting enough protein, I'm getting enough vegetables, and part of that is from spending some time working with a nutritionist, which I'm not really doing so much right now. I know enough to do DIY. But if you are not getting your general needs met in that way, that could be a huge contributing factor to disappointing / craptastic runs. However, so that's like, macro, long-term, what your nutrition is. But also, nutrition, like the night before, can absolutely have an effect on your run the next day. Yeah. What you eat before, if it doesn't, all that also matters. It all matters.
It all matters. If you didn't eat enough protein the night before, you might have dead legs the next day. If you're totally dehydrated because you ate some salty, goodney amazingness, then that's going to make you feel like crap the next day. But here, you remember Legally Blonde? Here's what it comes down to. Legally Blonde. So when she walks into the pixie, the woman with the pixie haircut, the guidance counselor, she's like, I want to go to law school. I'm going to Harvard. And they're like, what are your backups? She's like, none. I'm going to Harvard. She's like, okay, well, you're going to need. And she makes this list and is kind of looking at her. As a coach, that's what I'm doing. It's like, okay, well, when you come to me only for the training plan, I'm going to Boston. Okay, I'm going to qualify this time. Okay, well, you're going to need, you can't miss any runs, and you need perfect nutrition, and you're going to have to nail all of the lifestyle factors. Okay. It's really, it's a different iteration of the same conversation. I don't need you to be perfect. You don't need to be perfect. There is so much good food in this world. Go eat it and let that one run go away. If you have a bad run, I sincerely hope you can tie it to a meal. Oh, that's the pho. I shouldn't have had that second bowl. Yeah, but I did, and it was awesome. Shaming to live in the should. Don't think of it that way. Mm-hmm. It could be a whole lot of things. It could be nothing. Whenever you have a bad run, though, I sincerely hope you can tie it to like a cupcake, and I want to hear about that cupcake. And I don't want you to worry about it at all. Because it really doesn't matter. And we know we do not demand perfection here. Right. And the only time, if it ever felt like I did in the past, it's because you came to me and said you were going to Harvard. Just like that scene in Legally Blonde. And it's like, all right, well, I'm not saying you can't, but I'm saying if you're going to, then we're going to have to cross everything off this list.
You need at least a 175 on the LSATs, and that is not easy to do.
Right. And then you still need the perfect day.
Yep.
Nothing standing in my way. I love that song. Sorry. I love that movie so much. I'm going to watch that with my daughter tonight.
It's so good. Oh my gosh, I'm jealous. I want to come too. All right,
Next question.
Hold on. There was another question at the end of that question, though.
Okay.
The last question in this series of questions. The clam series kept my booty sore for the entire month of May. Am I losing those gains by not continuing that series this month?
Nope. Not at all.
Nope.
You don't. That soreness. It's not that it's a bad thing, but it's inflammation from the adaptation in the muscle. You don't need to feel that all the time in order to get stronger.
Yep. because we're not repping to fail in any of these exercises. We're building the muscles by small increments enough that you're building without breaking. So no, just because you are not feeling sore from clams does not mean that you're missing out on anything.
Look at you, Coach Sarah, for the win. Next question.
Boom. Next question. We're traveling international for 3 weeks. What's the minimum running you'd like to see to not lose too much fitness, especially considering jet lag?
I want you to go have fun. First of all, seriously, you have to keep running, because if you're going to visit family, you're and especially in-laws, you might want to get out a little bit, let them do whatever they do. It's
Even if you're just going with your own family, you need to get out. In my opinion.
It's one of the best ways to see a city, and depending on where you are in Europe, you can have some really amazing runs. Put photos on Strava, put them in on Instagram, put them in your Facebook feed. Like, while you're gone, remind me what you're doing, how cool it is, and then take a picture of whatever you ate that we can't get over here. There's something, we were watching Chernobyl. You're going to hear me talk about Chernobyl a lot. Sarah had to hear about it for an hour during this podcast today. But Chernobyl was wonderful because there were two things that really gripped me about it. When I think about Russia and I think about living there and I think about what I missed, one of the two things that I really, really miss is called skwushonka, and it's a type of super sweetened condensed milk that can be turned into a frozen dairy product, and it is gorgeous, and there is nothing like it in the United States. If I was in Russia right now, which I'm probably not going to be for a long time, but if I was you, I would be like making an excuse to do a 30-minute run every day, round trip somewhere to get skwushonka, take a picture of it with me in my run clothes, earned it. Like, even though that's not how we're supposed to look at food, but it'd be very sarcastic, very tongue-in-cheek, earn my skwushonka, and I would be taking photos and putting it everywhere, because that's to justify getting away for 30 minutes and taking a shower, which can be like an hour away from your family. So to that end, I would prefer that you kept the pattern as much as possible, but I would settle easily for 30 minutes, 5 days a week. That's going to keep you healthy-ish and sane, and also help deter when you come back. I ate a lot of crap. I had a lot of fun. I didn't run at all. I'm behind. Let's catch up, which is going to lead to the desire to overdo, which could then get you hurt, and that's what we have to avoid more than anything else.
Yeah. The one quick thing that I want to say is that I went to Paris for a couple of weeks with my family over Christmas, and
rub it in.
January, I'm going to rub it in a little bit. And in the month of January, MK was pushing some workouts to my Training Peaks, and she put a workout with 5K pace intervals that was called Drink Less.
And that's why I made it. I was thinking of you.
I went out and I ran easy effort for an hour, and I came back and I put in my Training Peaks comments, MK, I will get to this when I get back, because right now I'm in Paris and I am not going to drink less. Thank you very much. And MK responded. She was like, yes!
Like, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah, and I didn't. Believe me.
I just wanted to make sure you thought about me on your vacation.
I think I still talk to you every day on my vacation.
I know, right?
Which, it wouldn't be a vacation without it.
Because no one needs a vacation from MK. That's why we maintain year-round, right? Yay! Exactly. Next question.
Yay! Next question. Hills. In the past, we had hilly tweaks. Are there some basic additions we can make to improve hill performance? For example, high knees up a hill and everyone's favorite hill bounding. Suggestions for quantity? Question mark.
Yes, we have a document that's going to be coming out relatively around the same time. I'm just going to be throwing a whole bunch of documents at you guys all at once, once we kind of get through I lovingly call it the dyslexia machine. So we're going to be presenting things very, very differently. I have a group of people that I'm working with to make sure that all of my printed materials are as inclusive as they can possibly be. One of those documents, it will be a document on hills, and it is incredibly difficult to describe a lot of the concepts. Funny enough, as much as I like pictures and drawings and playing with my whiteboard and being like, and so this is what I'm really trying to say, when you actually need to draw pictures, it is hard, really hard. So there will be a hilly tweaks coming out effectively. That's not what we're going to call it. It'll have some other pithy name, but you can start them whenever you want. The high knees up a hill are wonderful. They really, really are. I would incorporate those if I was preparing for something hilly or just trying to get faster. High knees are a speed drill, running really quickly in place until you need to catch your breath, and then moving again. And where I like to start people, I call it 1 moving minute. So like you've seen with your Garmin, right? It stops. It'll be like, my total workout time was an hour, but it says that, or the time of my workout was an hour long, but if you include all the stops at the traffic light, it's like the net time versus the actual time. Actual time is 1 hour 20 minutes. I'm like, that's some long ass stoplights. All that just to say, a moving minute is the same thing. It's not the total time you've been doing it, but it's the total time you're moving with the breaks taken out. Start with 1 moving minute, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, at the end of your run. More than that, it's not going to lead to better outcomes right away. They're brutal. They're hard on your psoas. And it's a good thing, but we need to be balancing that out with a lot of glute work as well, which is why I prefer to send this in a robust document rather than sort of like throw a bunch of stuff at you that you're going to be scribbling down either when you hear this in podcast form later or are watching in video form now.
You wanted printed materials, you gon' get them.
Got to get them.
Okay. Ready for next?
Yes.
I am super excited for the new marathon programs you recently explained. Since heart rate training in your specific strength series, I do feel fitter than ever. I haven't quite conquered my secret goal, but I love what you said about as long as you don't quit, you will get better. I'm getting closer and I am super dedicated. I have a question. Will there be the option for opting into a pre-race coach call if needed, just to go over a race plan, which personally is for more mental assurance than anything for me anyhow?
Possibly. And I say that lovingly, like I always want to work with people on it, but what I need to be careful about is selling blocks of time that I can't stop selling later. I am considering doing something like a Patreon, so a Patreon would be, and this would just be keep it simple and keep it so that way Sarah could have a Patreon, I could have Patreon, other coaches that we bring in, they could have their own. So I wouldn't be like, if they want to do that on their own, they can charge for their time, and that's fine. I don't need a cut of that. I think it's gross. So I want to make sure that when the point comes that you are actually, buying from a fitness protection coach, that you can have, something direct with them that would be, a time suck but probably exist in limited quantities, like a phone call. So I don't know exactly when that's going to start yet, but I would not rule that out. I've just got other things I got to do before I can commit to the yes. But I will. So long story short, I would be happy to work with people on a race plan. But what that's going to look like yet, I don't really know. If you need to know sooner than August the 1st, email me. But but don't email me because you really need to know right now, and your race is in November. I promise I'm going to come around with that.
All right. Next question. Warm up and cool down were on your runner's priorities list. What are important elements? Running a certain period of time with heart rate under 140. Since Silly Toes was listed separately, I assume that's different from warm up. What else should we know about warm up and cool down?
Silly Toes are mandatory, and the reason that hasn't shown up anywhere yet is because I expect you guys to know that is consistent, that is clear, and that has never ever changed. Every single run should begin with Silly Toes, and as far as I'm concerned, your workout is not finished until you foam rolled. So a lot of people have been walking around with very long-standing unfinished workouts for like years. No doubt. But Silly Toes are super important. What we're doing is warming up your tendons, your joints, and your ligaments, and getting them ready to do some work. It's also a signal to your body of what we're about to do. And those neuromuscular connections, those signals are super duper important. They put you in the zone. They put you in the mode. And because it's familiar when you do it, like you'll see professional athletes have the same pre-game rituals. And they follow them to the letter, because it puts them where they need to be mentally and physically. Like, this is very much the same thing. I just make it a whole lot shorter. Mm-hmm. Did that answer the question? I felt like it was more complicated than that.
I think it's just asking, like, is there anything apart from that? As in, like, once you start running, is there a way that you're supposed to run as a quote unquote warm up? I'm not sure I'm understanding it properly either. But
no, all I care about is
my answer,
easing into the run and then easing out of the run. The
right.
problem I had with a lot of people was that they came in at, like, they had an idea that this is my easy pace, becomes a hard paradigm, a hard mental fixture to break, because it's like, that tells me nothing about effort. And maybe when you first start, like, everybody's like, getting at that pace, and then the heart rate goes up, and then they have to slow down over the course of the run. I don't care, like, if that's happening, I promise you're looking at this the wrong way. What matters is that we give your body a little time to loosen up and to warm up, get blood flowing to the muscles, and then let autopilot take over, matching your breathing with your footfalls. Easing into the run is pretty important. If you try to start right at your 140 pace, again, you're looking at this incorrectly. You're stressing out about the wrong data point.
Yeah. Yeah, let it feel, and I mean, ideally, your heart rate is going to, not ideally, like physiologically, your heart rate is going to be lower at the beginning. It's going to rise over the course of the run. That's what happens. So
and the higher it gets, the harder it is to bring it back down.
Exactly. All right, anything else to say?
Nope, that's it. How many questions left?
2.
Yay! Wow.
We're almost there. Okay. I know we're actually really going through these very well, I think. I signed up for a 10K on the 4th of July before fitness protection existed. It's the Peachtree 10K, yay, which will have 60,000 runners. Oh my God. I've raced rarely, and when I have, I've run leisurely with little regard to pace. Since I will have been in fitness protection for 3 months on race day, I would like to challenge myself and show off new skills. Considerations, it'll be hot, humid, and crowded. 4th of July in Atlanta, I believe. Peachtree is Atlanta. I have done well with fitness protection despite no previous heart rate or coaching experience. Any ideas or thoughts are welcome.
I'd say just go race it.
I would say, okay.
What would you say?
I agree with that. Hot, humid, and crowded, those are all things that, those are all things that are going to impact your day. So go into it with no expectations about time. I don't think we need to tell you that. It doesn't sound like from what you're writing here that you're getting wound up about time. Go into it thinking about effort levels rather than obsessing about what your watch says. That's what I think.
Well, that's why I say just run it by feel. But wear the watch, run it by feel. But no, it's hot, it's humid, it's going to suck. The good thing about a race like this, and this is what I would focus on, because everyone, again, they focus on pace, and they can't let go, well, I thought this would be my race pace, and it wasn't, and I'm so disappointed. And it's like, well, then you're always going to set yourself up to feel badly. What I would say is, like, who cares about this race? This race was not the priority I've had for the year. It's a big race. It's a fun race. It's not perfect conditions. Let's see what I can do in this low-risk environment with terrible conditions where nothing good could possibly come from it. And if you go into it with that, that's a quote from Downton Abbey. From Gosford Park. What good could possibly come from it? It's one of my favorite lines ever. And I think I use that so much in my own thinking. And if nothing good can come from it, then why in the world would you do it? And I feel like that's also their running theme. And like Ask Prudence and all those columns that you and I both like a lot. So I put it that way. Rather than obsessing over the time, go out there and be like, that felt good. Race it. Don't look at your watch during the race. That felt good. I felt strong. I think that was the best I probably could have hoped for under these conditions. And then look at the time. And don't, whatever happens there, you could be pleasantly surprised, but don't piss in your own Cheerios. What that time does not negate that feeling of pride of that was hard and I ran hard and I did good and that was great. Don't let anything take that away.
Yeah. Yeah, I have made the mistake of going into a hot, humid, and crowded race with big hopes about what the time is going to be, and don't do that. Don't do that. Was 2 summers ago. It was July 12th, I think, and it was this ridiculous 5K at like it was at 6 p.m. And it was like 85 degrees, like 90% humidity. It was disgusting. And then all of a sudden it opened up, started pouring rain in the middle of the thing. And I was like, I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, hey, this is I haven't raced a 5K in a while. I'm going to show off my skills. I'm relating to this question because I recognize these thoughts. Like, ooh, maybe I'll like really come out of the box and surprise myself and run a PR in the 5K. I did not do that, not even close. And what I did instead was stare at my watch the whole time and be like, oh my God, I'm running so slowly. And of course I was running so slowly. And that shouldn't have been my focus. It really shouldn't have been my focus.
But that's that's where our focus needs to be, though, in those moments, right? Not every race is going to be a showcase for your fitness level. Not every finish time is going to be an accurate reflection. It's not all a test, and this is where you are right now. Fail!
Right.
What should keep you going? Instead of feeling, oh, I could have gone faster. Meh, I kind of suck. Maybe I'm not meant to be a runner. Don't go down that hole. What you want to come out of that feeling is, I could have gone faster. Fuck humidity. Fuck 75 degrees at 2 in the afternoon. I'm going to pick my next race differently. I'm going to go get my time.
Yep.
And then you go to the next one. I could have gone faster should be a good thing. I should have gone faster is a shame phrase, and it is shaming to live in the should. Don't do it. So sorry, I hate to interrupt you there, but like that's the part in the story that where we all kind of gloss over it, and I feel like that's the salient point that people miss, because when you're only looking at the time, you could be pleasantly surprised, but don't count on it. That's all we know how to do. Well, my A goal is here, but I'd be really happy if I got my B goal. Like, you've already set yourself up to be really disappointed with whatever happens if that A goal isn't hit.
Exactly.
And the second the A goal goes out the window, you're not going to be able to focus on nailing the B goal or the C goal. You're going to be managing disappointment. It's a flawed structure.
And what I should have, and when I look back at that race now, my average heart rate over the course of a 5K was 181. Average heart rate, 181.
Ooh.
What?
That's
like,
hard.
I ran that hard for half an hour. I ran that hard for a half an hour, and I didn't take my foot off the gas, even though I was having a horrendous time.
You're saying I'm not worthy. That's terrible.
That impresses me. I have not come even close to that high of a heart rate on anything since then.
That just hurts.
I don't know if it's even possible.
Ugh.
So what I would like to have felt after that race is like, wow, this was the worst possible weather, super bad conditions, but man, did I ever show up and give everything. That's, that's the...
Boy, I worked really hard. I wish I had a time to show for it. Oh, well, next time I won't pick a race in the middle of July at night.
Yeah. Next time, I'd never again. That's a never again for me.
Totally.
But the Peachtree is a different thing, because that is a cool, famous race that, like, cool, famous people show up to race.
Yeah.
So the last thing I'll say is enjoy the experience, because running in the same race as, like, super fast elites can be, like, that feels very cool to me whenever it happens.
I mean, I say it all the time. It's my favorite sport in the world. I will never get to play, pick up with Jordan or Steph Curry. I will never get to throw a pass at Peyton Manning. I will only ever be a participant in the story that they're writing when they're on the field. But man, we get to run with champions. We get to show up and do exactly what they're doing.
I ran with Emily Sisson in October. I ran with Emily Sisson, and she won and I didn't, but I still ran with her.
You still ran with her. It's cool. No one else gets to do this. No other sport. It's amazing.
Exactly. It is amazing.
Now, this has gone on. We're almost to 1:35, and this could take a while to answer the last one. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can answer. I think I can answer it pretty briefly, and then I'm sure we'll go into it more. So this is if I missed it in an earlier edition, I'd love to hear more of Sarah's journey into coaching here or in podcast. So the reason I put this last is because I had a feeling we would spend a lot of time on all of the other questions, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't talk too much, because in part you are definitely going to hear more about my journey into coaching on the episode of the Fitness Protection Podcast that we just recorded today, which is going to be dropping soon. And also, I'm sure, in the future, because my journey into coaching is really my journey in life. It's just kind of the latest chapter, and it all kind of comes back to the same principles that, as I look back, I realize have been guiding me for a really long time. And I think part of the difference is that for a very long time, I really did always feel like, oh, well, I shouldn't be so dedicated to this. I should be more focused on this. I was an instructor of Italian for many, many years. I was also an instructor of English as a second language, briefly an instructor of French. I taught Italian at many different levels in a lot of different places, and I loved it. I loved the kind of almost obsessive thinking that went into creating lesson plans about the subjunctive. I loved thinking about how to structure the information that I was giving and how to scaffold the activities so that the students would be kind of using slightly more of that information and slightly more of that information themselves, and go from identifying to generating to transforming different forms. That was the kind of thing that I really felt like I could have done for the rest of my life. I never got tired of it. But I always was being told, well, but that's not what you should focus on. What you should really focus on is research and promoting yourself and promoting your scholarship, because that's how you get hired in academia. Those people were not wrong. That is how you get hired in academia. Therefore, I got hired once, and I didn't, and I applied for many jobs over the course of many years, and none of them worked out. So I made the decision a year ago that I was done with that. And I didn't specifically know what was next, but I knew that I needed to be a lot more in control because I was doing so many things that I did not want to do or even feel like were, a net good in the world to do. The reason I loved teaching is because I felt very connected to the people that I was working with, and I could really see the way what we were doing was translating into their lives. I got a lot of one-on-one time with the people that I taught, and it felt really good to me. It felt like, okay, this is my why. This is my reason that I'm here, that I'm doing all of the other stuff. All of the other stuff, though, which was the stuff that everyone said was what I should view as more important, I was being asked to do too much of it, and to do it in a way that I didn't think was adding anything. I really didn't think it was adding anything. I was doing it to get to an end goal of being hired. Not that there was any guarantee that would happen for me. So as all of this was happening, those of you who are in the monthly plans, in Train Like a Mother, I mean, I was the person in there posting every day, being like, hey, tell me about your run, for a pretty good chunk of that time. I shared that with some other people. I was really appreciative when other people were able to come in and share it with me, but I realized I was so dedicated to doing that because I loved being there with you. I loved being there with you. I loved hearing about what everyone else was going through in their lives, and you, the people in the monthly plans with me, you were the people that heard about my big transition, my decision to leave academia first, because you were the people that I trusted. Because I felt like on some level we really understood each other, and we really understood that we are all here to kind of identify something really important to us personally and to be doing something that we really wanted to be doing. And so I got a lot of clarity from being with you and from learning things and watching you all learn things. And I feel very lucky to be here doing this now. And when I made the decision to leave Harvard a year ago, I did not know what was next yet. I started a blog. I write a fair amount. I don't write on it as much now as I did before because this job at Harvard kind of came up very unexpectedly, and it lasted a lot longer than I thought it did. The job that I'm going to be leaving in August to do fitness protection program full time, that I did not plan for it, and it's been wonderful, but also it feels like it's kind of my last connection to this world that I've decided I'm not in anymore. And I feel like now here I'm where I belong. So you'll hear more, you'll know more. Very soon I will be doing the RRCA coaching certification course, and then I will officially be a run coach. And I will not feel like a poser when I say to people at parties that I'm a run coach, except I'll probably regret saying that because already I'm getting to the point where people are like, oh, and then they want to kind of one-up me.
Here's what I do.
Here's what I do. Yeah. It's starting already, but it doesn't matter because I can smile and nod through a lot of that stuff, because what really matters is that I get to be here with you, and the amount of clarity and introspection and honesty that you all bring to this is extremely fulfilling for me. So thank you for letting me be here.
Yay. Well, I kind of wanted to add a little bit to that, because I think it doesn't feel like a very natural segue from Harvard and academia to run coaching, and it doesn't feel like a straight line. But I also when Sarah got my attention in a really big way back in 2016, specifically because she did not seek out my attention. At that point, I had 2 failed mentorships where I tried to mentor a coach, and it ended in flames, because I thought the desire was the most important part, and something that my husband and I ended up sitting down and discussing When the second one ended, it ended so badly. I have had very few events in my life where I no longer speak to the person on the other side of it and don't want to. Of those events, both of them were the people that I tried to mentor, and I don't like that. I don't like that result. I'm not happy with that result. But here's the conflict. My husband was like, "Well, think about it. It's kind of like being at Wharton. The person who really wants to be a banker is never going to be your friend if you want to be a banker too." And I'm like, "Oh, the person who just wanting it isn't a lot is not enough because when you're a vice president, you got all these little sharks swimming at you. Instead of trying to push you up the ladder, they don't know the difference between pushing you up the ladder and knocking you off of it, which is where a lot of the elbow throwing comes in. A lot of younger people don't see the difference between embarrassing the person ahead of them in front of the client in order to look good. They don't see how that can make them look bad. And especially when a job that is desired is in limited supply. So, kind of like coaching. There just aren't that many run positions. So what got me about Sarah was the fact that she was highly coachable. And this is really how coaches look at the world. We sort of say, all right, either you are or you aren't. And a coachable person, someone who is truly coachable, does not ever say, well, here's what I do. Because here's what I do is a response to what someone else does. Like, well, here's what... When the person when the coach or the teacher says, well, this is the way we need to look at the world. Well, here's what I do is sort of a middle finger. It's not didactic. It doesn't further the conversation. It's more like a throwdown. There was nothing about Sarah she's so pure and she's so kind and she's so eager to please and eager to help. That comes not from a place of desiring recognition, but desiring to serve. And that's what got me. Because there were people asking me for the same thing. I think I want to be a coach. Would you talk to me? Would you help me? Would you do? And and my answer would always be yes, but maybe it depends. And I try to be kind in those moments. But then the question becomes, what do you really want from me? Are you trying to are you really wanting to learn something and go build your own, or are you trying to take what I've got? And I always never really got that pure sense of I'm just here and I'm happy to help and I don't really need it to go anywhere. So when things started, when my personal life started shifting and things started changing, and I started asking who would I really want on my side if I had done this going forward, it needs to be someone who is highly coachable, because preferably someone that does not have firm ideas about coaching or business that's going to be butting heads with me every step of the way, trying to prove their mettle by proving me wrong, which is the alpha dog way of doing things. And most of us were trained that's how you win. It's Survivor. It's Game of Thrones. You take out the king first, and then it's your castle. And I just have no interest in doing that ever again. That's not how you build legacy. That's not how you build something real and lasting. So the person had to be highly coachable. They had to be good, being my right hand instead of sitting in my seat. Because it'll be musical chairs. We're all going to be moving around over time. But you can't make me feel insecure that you're more about taking what I have than being with me where I go. That's not going to make me want to do anything with a person. And then the final aspect of it is will this person do things the way I want them done? Will they treat people the way I want them to be treated? Can I trust this person with my clients that is never going to call them fat or use shame words or make them feel bad about themselves or make them feel less than? I will never segregate on the basis of pace. This is the only framework most people have for viewing their work and judging the work of people around them. And if you bring those bad habits here, this partnership is not going to work. Sarah dropped all those habits. She didn't, most clients coming to me, I'm the coach of last resort. I have to break their bad habits and help force new ones, and that is a process. People have worked with me for 3 years and still not completely gotten there, which is okay. All 40 years of conditioning does not fall away overnight. You're by no means behind. But Sarah just sort of took to my method to duck to water way back when and never looked back. And I'm when I started looking forward, it happened to coincide with her leaving academia. And I'm I have this crazy idea. So just know there might be a plan B at some point. Don't forget this conversation. But there will, when the follow-up's going to come, I can't tell you. And so almost
and you said to me very clearly, I know that you're going to have other opportunities, and I might have something for you someday, and when I do, I hope that it's interesting to you, but know that if it isn't, I totally understand. And you made it clear that you were not trying to like bookmark me. You were not trying to keep me in your back pocket. There was none of that. You just were like, hey,
you'd be a great option. Thanks.
and I took that very seriously. And I have to say that there is no one more excited about what's happening right now than my husband. He is
That's
all
awesome.
in with all of this, which I didn't necessarily expect.
Me neither.
But he is. I had this moment when we hired a new director at Harvard who started in March, who is a wonderful hire and who's going to make this department that I'm leaving a great place, already is doing it. I definitely had a moment of like, okay, everyone's begging me to stay. This is the job that a year ago I would have died for. Like, why am I leaving now? It's not, this is not an academic job. This is a staff job. It's honestly a little bit of a dead-end job, but it was the sort of like 9 to 5 with, benefits type of job that I always thought, well, maybe I'll leave academia and do this. And I definitely had a moment where I was like, should I just do this instead? And my husband was like, are you fucking kidding me? He was mad. He was mad at me. He was like, you are never going to have another chance like this. You understand that, right? Like, we talked on the phone about it for a while, and he was away that week. So it was a hard phone conversation to have. And I sort of took a minute, but then, but his enthusiasm and his belief that this is so important and so good. I mean, he's not even in the program, but he has seen me. He has seen me for the last 3 years since I started working with you. And he knows what a big deal this is and how different the way we do things is, because he has known me since I started running 14 years ago. He knows the way I used to beat myself up and how unhappy I used to be about my body and about my running and how discouraged and flattened I was so much at the time. And when I started doing heart rate training, he was kind of like, okay, he wasn't going to say anything about like, oh, this is some new thing you're doing now. All right, cool. But he's seen and he knows, and he is like, you got to go do this. This is a big deal. So
it's a big deal.
I've never said that to you, MK, in those words. I want you to know that he believes in you so hard.
You guys haven't even seen the revenue model yet. I'm like, which it blows my mind. They don't really know what we're doing. They know what this is. And but no one does, and I should probably stop talking there. But like how this came about was serendipity. So if the person who asked that question, if what you're really asking is how do I do what you're doing, I would ask you for your why. For me, and Simon Sinek, that's a great TED Talk. Go watch it. What's your why? Find your why. Because it all comes back to why. If you don't have a why, you don't have a thing. You don't have a business, you don't have a chance. Everything is an MLM these days. And it's very tempting. I've been on it. I've been on that road too, right? Like, oh, I hate my life. I like yoga. Yoga makes me happy. I'm going to do more yoga. I think I'm going to go become a yoga instructor so I can then monetize the thing that makes me happy. And I don't think that's a very good logic chain. I don't think that is a path to security or a lasting happiness. Doing more of the thing that makes us happy, there's probably a tipping point where it starts to eat into other things. So that, I would say, that's not the answer, but everyone is willing to sell it to you. There's a great article, and I think it was in the Atlantic a couple weeks ago, Is Everything an MLM? That speaks to exactly this. We have the solution. We're going to monetize your downtime. We're going to monetize your hobby. We're going to turn your side hustle into your day job. And I'm like, how many times does that work out? I come from the land of Mary Kay. It doesn't work out very well for many people at all. I set out to become the coach I wanted to hire. I never intended for this to be a second career. What I'm doing now is a path that I dreamed of a long time ago. Like, I wish this was available, and it wasn't. And now it just so happens that I have a whole lot of experience that I never really took seriously because I've never been a famous competitive professional runner, combined with, an incredible business education, like really just unparalleled. To put those things together, there's no telling what I could do. And now look back and I'm like, of course, my whole life has been building to this moment. But I wouldn't have known that 4 years ago, 2 years ago, or shoot, even 6 months ago when it looked like things were about to turn sideways for our family. So to that end, if the question you're asking is how do I do what you're doing, start with why, because if you don't have that, then when you do get here, getting the certification from RC, it's a great thing to have. It helps you get in the insurance pool, which is why I'm having Coach Sarah do it. But that's the only reason I'm having Coach Sarah do it. But what you're really doing is trying to if you without that why, you're not going to know what makes you unique, and then you're just another run coach that's out there. So we're going to be expanding eventually, but not yet. And I just told you very clearly what it was that attracted me about Sarah. And if I'm not that person for you, find the person to whom you could submit in that way, the not a guru, but the person. When you talk about who would you want to apprentice yourself to, who do you want to learn from, who do you want to emulate, not replace, like I'm going to go hang out here long enough and then the empire will be mine, but rather if I want to be this person when I grow up, and I because I want to do things the way this person does, go hang out there, start there, or think about find the hole in the market like I did and say, I really wish I had this, then go fill that hole. And if you, and then maybe things will come together. You've got the tools to do it now that never existed before. Man, you think about like what you would have had to do to get a TV ad. The markets are not perfect. We know that now. So the best idea does not, in fact, always win. How many female entrepreneurs couldn't get funding or were turned down or couldn't buy a TV spot because they just didn't want to sell it to a silly little woman business. Like you go back and you read memoirs and it's horrifying. Now you've got Facebook. No one can stop you from opening a Facebook account. Facebook's AI is pretty good and not that misogynistic, at least when it comes to putting out ads or sharing ads. Like they get a lot of things wrong. Facebook gets a lot of things wrong. At the same time, when it comes to having and positioning a small business, there's never been a time in history when marketing and accessibility and penetration rates have been this democratized. You can use all of those tools and they're very easy to learn, they're very easy to use, and they're cheap, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. So if this is something, find your why, and if this is where you want to be, nothing will be able to stop you from getting here. But I cannot say with any level of honesty that this was part of some sort of master plan that I've had since I was 6 years old, because that's what we venerate in America. That's what we want. That, the person with the vision that is unstoppable. That vision has to be coupled with right time, right place, right opportunity. I've said all along, if something happened to my husband, he facilitates this lifestyle and allows me to be an entrepreneur. That's a lot of privilege, and that's a lot of luck. So we're both all in on this, but we also realize how precarious it is. So before getting into this precarious situation, because I made $42,000 last year, just to give you perspective. And that was a lot of hours worked between 2 jobs doing this. You got to really love it. And if you don't have your why and you don't really love it, it will never be enough money.
Sorry, Sarah Seberg just commented that question was mine, and I was truly just curious about Sarah's path. Having been in the monthlies with her, it was not a surprise. So thank you, Sarah, for saying that. I really appreciate it.
Sorry, I feel like I took that question and went too long with it. I just always want to be very clear.
No, I think I think that this was a nice way to end the stream tonight. So I'm glad I put it last. Because I mean, you tell me so much why I'm here and why you wanted me to be doing this, and you tell me over and over again, and it means so much to me every time you remind me that I'm in the right place and that I'm doing, that I'm doing things the way you want me to do them, and that I'm, that I am here because of who I am.
Yeah, you make me superfluous, and this isn't going to grow into what I want it to be if I have to be everything.
Yeah, and the fact that you tell me over and over again that I'm here because of who I am, and that what I need to do is follow my instincts and be myself. I've really never had anyone I've worked for tell me that, and that means a lot to me. So
fuck Harvard.
Thank you. Fuck Harvard. They're being very nice to me right now, and I want to recognize that. But yeah, it's been some years, and I'm ready to go.
I'm kidding. We love Harvard. We have nothing against them. It's 10 more weeks. And academia does this to everyone for sure.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And actually, just very quickly, I pasted the link to the Is Everything an MLM article. That was actually Ann Helen Peterson.
Of course it was. I love her.
Who is an amazing writer and who is also a former academic who did the same thing I did and eventually just said, fuck this. And she's writing a book now that's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to read it.
About millennial burnout.
I pasted it in Twitch and in Facebook.
Sweet. Oh, well, with 2 hours, this is going to be a really great podcast. Sorry, guys.
It's going to be a really great podcast. This is for your next long run, everybody.
You are coached. You are loved. I'm going to go make sure my babies and husband still feel loved. And then I'm going to try to not forget to demonstrate some strength. And I got to get a podcast out. Man, we got work to do.
We got work to do. And it's clam day tomorrow.
Clam day.
Rebuild. Get ready.
Good night, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging.
Good night.
Thanks, Coach Sarah.
Okay.
All right. I'm ending the live stream.
Yep, and I'm stopping the recording. This file is going to take a while to convert. But it's going to be good.
Coach Sarah runs with you. Very late response. Yes, PT loved the videos and was curious if she was strong enough for the one-legged get-ups.
Yeah, so these I've been answering some questions